Yo, what's up? I hope you guys can hear me over the sound of all these comments, because I have some pretty exciting news. As you can see, I am currently spamming comments by holding down the barrier invocation button, and I am no longer dying. Comments are raining down everywhere, and my energy shield keeps bouncing right back to full. This took a really long time to get up and running, but it's finally here. Right, so this is a lot quieter. Hope you guys can hear me better now. Yeah, I've been away from making videos for a really long time, about a month actually. Sorry for that. I have kept up with my comment sections though, and there are two things that I see a lot in there. One is people expressed a lot of frustration at being unable to hold the button down without dying. And two is people have been asking me for an updated and or high investment version of the build. So here is me making a video addressing both. The build can now spam, and that takes a lot of investment to reach. So there you go. Two birds with one stone, I guess. Alright, so just quickly, I'd like to go over what makes this tick, and what we need to achieve in order to get that to happen. So I'm sorry in advance, but I do need to take you guys through some math. It is not that bad though. It's pretty easy. Okay, so with capacitor support, barrier invocation has 900 maximum energy. By default, it requires 5 hit damage in order to gain 1 energy, which means that you just multiply 900 by 5 to get 4500. Okay? That value is divided by your energy gain modifier divided by 100 plus 1. So, in my case, that is 266 divided by 100 is 2.66 plus 1 is 3.66. So 4,500 divided by 3.66 comes out to about 1,280, if I recall correctly. And so that is the damage that I need to take in order to max out barrier invocation in one go. So that is the damage you need to take from Infernal Flame. By my estimates, at full speed while holding down the button, you activate barrier invocation about 3 times per second. So you need to multiply this value by 3, and your recovery per second from regen and flasks and whatever else you have needs to be higher than that number. Now currently I am at 3924.6, and 1280 times 3 is 3840, I believe. So currently I'm there, right? I can spam fully. But now hopefully you understand why I need, because genuinely 266% energy gain modifier is ridiculous, but that is what we need to reach in order to be able to spam. Or you could go all in on flask recovery. I've seen builds do that. That works too. That's fine. But I've chosen to go this route. And the way we reach that is with the Adorned. So the Adorned is making all of our corrupted magic jewels 57% stronger. This rolls from 0 to 100, so there's definitely still room to improve. But essentially what I've done is I've grabbed a bunch of jewels that give meta skills gain X% energy, or increase energy. As you can see, I have 6 of these that give 14%, and because of the Adorned, they're not giving 14%, but they are giving 21%. So that is 6 times 21% is 126% energy gain just from those jewels. Now, the way that we get all those jewel sockets is, even in the last video, this was already visible, because I was already working on this, but it wasn't finished yet. But I swapped off of Atziri's Disdain. Now, Atziri's Disdain has this line over here that says 20% of damage taken bypasses energy shield. In order to counteract that line, you need a lot of life recoup. And so I had a cluster here, and I had some pathing nodes here, and a cluster here, and then I had slightly less efficient pathing here, and then this cluster here. All of those points are gone now, which frees up a lot of passive points that I spent on jewel sockets. And so that's how I got enough jewel sockets to make the Adorned worth it. So I have 6 of these. 4 of them also have increased maximum energy shield, so I could drop some ES nodes for even more jewel sockets. 2 of them have some damage. Over here, triggered spells deal increased damage. And then one of them over here is green, which has increased life recovery from flasks on it, which is being buffed from 15% to 23% by the Adorned. Again, this Adorned could be a lot stronger, but Adorned is stupidly expensive at higher percentages, so this was all I could get. So yeah, that's how we get an insane amount of energy gain, because this is energy gain is a stat that's quite rare. It's on barrier invocation as a gem, so gem level gives energy gain, quality gives energy gain. There's impetus support, which we are using. There's 55% on the tree, which we don't all have. But yeah, so like there's a lot that you can gain by default, but not nearly enough in order to do this. And so the rest you need to get from jewels, which is what the Adorned is for. Adorned is not the only unique jewel I bought. I also bought a Megalomaniac, which allocates 2 to 3 random notables on the skill tree, and mine allocates Potent, Concoctions, and Cooked. Both of those are over here. This, for my build, is effectively 25% more recovery from flasks, because flask effect is a stat that's quite rare in Path of Exile 2, and I don't have any of it, so this is essentially just multiplicative recovery. For reference, there's a keystone over here that gives 30% multiplicative recovery, and that one disables your charm slots. So 25% is only marginally lower than that, and it's a notable, so like it's pretty strong. And then you've got this one over here, which gives 50% increased crit damage bonus during any flask effect. Well, we're always under the effect of a flask, otherwise we die, so that's always active. And 50% is pretty high value, so that's a good damage stats. You can find other nodes that are also good for the build and just make a list, and then add that as like a count filter on the like a count to 2 or a count to 3 filter on the trade website to look for these. If people are having trouble finding these, I might make a video about that, or this really quick video to tell people how to search these. But I feel like people can figure that out. If people are having trouble, I'll do that. But for now, yeah, just there you go. And then there's another unique jewel over here against the darkness. Credit to Sorza for this idea. Basically, the fire damage from Infernal Flame can ignite you, and because we're now spamming 3 of those per second, we're basically constantly ignited, even with the 53% reduced ignite duration from our body armor. And so what we really like is to be ignite immune, and this is how we get there. 6% reduced ignite duration on you per small passive and radius. So all these small passives now also give reduced ignite duration, which makes us reach minus 101% over here. So we're ignite immune. Yeah, so that's the jewel side of things. Then also in the last video, I think I didn't have this node yet. This node is very effective. It's 15% multiplicative energy shield recovery. For 4 points investment, I think that's fine. You could also add it as one of the nodes on Megalomaniac if you want. Might save 3 points that you can then spend on like a jewel socket or some crit or whatever. But this is giving me like 500 recovery per second. It's pretty big. Also, this is loosely related to recovery. I corrupted some Rise of the Phoenix shields. Rise of the Phoenix is dirt cheap. Just buy like 10 of them. You don't care about the roll. Put a socket on there. I qualitied it, but you don't need to, because it's not worth it. But I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I did anyway. But you don't need to do that. Just buy them, add sockets, and then val them. And what you're after is this 5% maximum fire res roll can roll to +6. And these regen roll nodes here, or nodes, these regen stats here can improve from 3 all the way up to like 3.66, I believe. Or 3.63, I'm not entirely sure, but basically what you're shooting for is about 7 from the 2 combined. So this like 3.45 plus 3.6 is 3.70 or 7.05, so that, yeah, that's enough. So you can improve your regen with this, and you can improve your max fire res with this. And then because we're no longer using Aziri's Disdain, there's much less life scaling in the build, and so we've swapped from Jikwani Soul Cores to Puhuarte Soul Cores for the maximum fire res. So that's 3% maximum fire res from those items combined. And that's basically how you reach the stats required to spam. That's not the only additions to the build I've made, though. In a similar vein to like the Jiquani Soul Core is no longer being used, Strength is now less useful in the build. It's still the most useful attribute, because the other two are literally useless. But it's not nearly as useful as it once was. So it's fine now to drop some Strength for reaching higher attribute requirements. And so one thing I've done is I've gotten some more Dex and now have Alchemist's Boon, which in boss fights means that we can now spam flasks for about a minute before we run out. And the boss doesn't survive a minute usually. So yeah, pretty good. Also, because the tree is now a lot wider, we are now pathing right past Pain Attunement, which to this build is permanent 30% more crit damage. Coward's Legacy makes us permanently low life so long as we have at least one of these allocated. So the condition for Pain Attunement is always active. 30% more crit damage is for free is really, really good. So that's another addition. And you may have noticed I now have weapon swap points. What I've basically done is a bunch of the damage nodes on the tree are now weapon set 1, and then weapon set 2 is offering duration, curse duration, curse effect, and skill effect duration. And the reason why that is a thing is we can now weapon swap. This will turn off my Grim Feast and turn on this Skeletal Cleric. And then I impale that guy, put down a curse, and I swap back. And now I have in total 10 seconds of 50% more spell damage and a cursed ground that will debuff by about 60% cold res. So yeah, for bosses that's really, really nice, which is why I have it. It's a bit clunky to use, but while the boss is yapping, doing his like monologue or whatever, you can very easily just give yourself a bunch of buffs this way. So that's really useful. Also, speaking of curses, I have 2 separate hypothermias. Like if you just enter an area, anytime you enter a new area, your barrier invocation will start at 0. So I have this one with just as much Infernal Flame cost as possible. So that we cast it twice and then we end up overflowing to like max out barrier invocation. You just do this once when you enter an area. So like if you're portaling in and out of a map, you do this. If you are just entering a map, you do this. If you die ever, you do this, etc., etc. And this one is at a very low Infernal Flame cost, and that is because that allows me to use it while spamming, and I'll end back up at 0 Infernal Flame. You'll notice if I do this one, I end up with 1 combat's worth of Infernal Flame left over at the end. You can use that to your advantage though, because as you can see, let me just grab some more flask charges real quick. There we go. If I start spamming, I can spam my flasks. There we go. Now I have like 30 seconds of recovery. Yeah, and then so let's see. Right now I'm sustaining my energy shield, as you can see, right? And if I use this, I will have this left over, and what you'll notice, if I do that again, is that I'm now no longer sustaining my energy shield. And the reason why is because you spam faster when you have leftover Infernal Flame. And so you can use that for burst damage against like map bosses or whatever, because they die within that burst. But for pinnacle bosses, you end up killing yourself instead of the boss when you do this. So you can do this on purpose to get a bit of burst, but you do have to like manually reset your Infernal Flame after you've finished bursting, which is kind of clunky. So that is a tech you can use for some situations, but it's usually more detrimental than useful. Okay, so I've shown you the build. What I haven't shown you yet is that Path of Building is released for Path of Exile 2. So let me just go back to my own build real quick. There we go. Yeah, it's the same build, but I was testing imports. Okay, so if you've never played Path of Exile 1, this looks really alien to you. If you have, I'm not even going to bother explaining because you already know how it works. This is essentially a calculator. It's a really, really powerful calculator. And what you can do is you can import your skill tree. As you can see, you can import your skills. You can import your items. And then if you set up your configs correctly, you can have this software tell you how much DPS you have. You can have it tell you how high your stats are, how much fire damage you can take without dying, and all sorts of things like that. It's really useful. It was borderline necessary for Path of Exile 1. I suspect it's slightly less useful for PoE 2, but still very, very good. And so I would highly recommend you to go download Path of Building. You can just Google it. And then what you can do is you can import my build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click generate and then share and then copy, and then this code I'm going to add in a comment next to the video. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click new when you open the software, and you're going to go to import over here, and you're going to right click after copying my code, and then I'll input it, click import, and lo and behold, now you have my character. Now currently in Path of Building, trigger skills are not supported yet, and so in order to simulate the DPS, what I've done is I've added some custom modifiers over here. This trigger rate simulation thing simulates how many comments per second we have. Spell Echo is implemented a bit weirdly, so it doesn't count towards DPS, so I've just added 100% more cast speed to simulate that, and then Bedat's hand wasn't working for some reason, so I just manually added my energy shield there. So your cast rate should be at 18 comments per second. If it's not, just edit this value until it is. Like maybe if because what you can do, right, is you can import this and then you can override my items with your items to see what your stats are, right? It's very useful to do that. And you can like try out gear upgrades. Like you can go on the trade website, look up an item and then add it in here to see if it's good for your build or not. You can like look at your support gems to see if they're optimal, etc., etc. But basically, if let's say you buy a wand that's better than my wand, but it has cast speed, what you can then do is lower this value here so that it's actually still 18 cast rate, right? So if the wand upgrades your cast rate, you need to lower this or whatever, right? If you have cast speed anywhere, you just need this value to stay 18. So just edit this value over here to do that. Right, so that's Path of Building. I'll leave you now with some boss footage because I've actually fought pinnacles now. So I'll stop yapping and you can watch me struggle against Arbiter for a bit, and I believe Xesht as well. So yeah, that's the build, that's the update. If you have any questions, I'll continue to answer them in the comments. I might stop playing Path of Exile 2 for a bit because I'm starting to burn out of it, but I'll definitely still be active in the comment sections of my own videos. So just keep the questions coming. I answer all of them. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the build. So there you go. See ya.
Mortal hands have contaminated her virtue once more by the fourth edict of the Mother Soul. Her flesh shall be scorched anew. You are too late. The fourth edict already burns for your world. Scourge. Corruption plagues, and her wounds your death was foretold. An arbiter's duty. You are too late. The fourth edict already burns for your world. Grave turmoil awaits you. Your affliction upon her will soon be erased. The Mother Soul must.
It's about time.